Hello, my friend. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Ben, and we are talking about the secret strategy to getting free leads on social media without spending a dollar on paid advertising. So if you sunk a lot of money into paid ads, you're not alone, my friend. It can be useful, but the reality is you can get really great leads on social media without having to spend money on ads. The strategy is often referred to as sell by chat, and we're going to review all of our best practices for how to be successful at selling using chat on social media. So if that sounds useful to you and you want more free leads from organic social media, keep on listening, my friend. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. I'm back here with my man, Ben. How are you, my friend?
Hello, I'm doing great. I'm riding the post-retreat high. It was
I
fantastic.
know. We're recording this a week after our Unicorn Society retreat in Austin, which was magical. And I'm sure you've already probably heard a podcast about us debriefing about that. So hopefully you caught that episode. But today we're going to be talking about Sell by Chat. But before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out. We have a new free resource that Mark put together, which is about personal productivity and time management. We know that many of you as small business owners and gym owners struggle with managing yourself and your time, and you're not always focused on the most important things. It's tough, and honestly, it's a skill set. It's a skill set you can learn, and we have a free resource to help you with that. So down in the show notes, click the link, and there's a free tool to help you get better at managing your time. There's lots of tools out there for time management and personal productivities, and there's gurus and there's books and there's hacks and there's Instagram accounts. But the tool we're giving you here is specifically for you, gym owners, right? So it's specific to the kind of work that you're doing on a regular basis. So go get that link, free resource. We hope it helps. Next, let's dive in, Ben. Let's talk
Yeah,
about sell by chat. First, what the fuck is sell by chat?
great question, Michael. Um, I've thought of this as I've been bouncing this around in my head. I've thought of this as kind of like organic social media 2.0. You're
Yeah.
out there, you're posting stories every day, you're putting up feed posts on a regular basis, you're gaining followers. Sell by chat is really how you ultimately sell people via primarily Instagram DMs, but it's really the next step of engaging your followers to see who's a 5-star prospect and who might be a good potential client for your facility.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we talk all the time about social media. If you're going to use it for marketing and selling, it means you have to be social on social media. Like you actually have to talk to strangers, start conversations with strangers, get in front of new eyeballs. When people engage, you need to actually engage with them. And so I think thinking about this as social media 2.0, I think is fantastic. And so let's walk through, we have a whole playbook for this, obviously, for our unicorns and members, how you execute on sell by chat. But today, let's just go through a very high level. You already mentioned one of the terms we're going to cover, which is what is a 5-star prospect. These are the ideal people you're going to go after during sell by chat. But I also want to cover some common pitfalls and then share kind of our overall sell by chat model. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try and do that in under 15 minutes today. Let's see if we can. First things first, you mentioned this term already. What the hell is a 5-star prospect?
Yeah, well, a 5-star prospect is, I guess the reason we have this is because it's like, oh, I'm not getting enough clients, I'm not getting enough leads. Like maybe they're not the right people. So we define a 5-star prospect with 5 pieces. The first one is someone who's willing to engage in dialogue with you over sell by chat. There are also people who are like friendly and cooperative, like arguably might
Mm-hmm.
want to spend more time with this person. There are people who also know what they want and know when they want it. If they're not sure, well, I could get fit, but I could not. And it might not be ever, not a 5-star prospect. And the last
Yeah.
and most important step is someone who would like some help. So it's people who are willing to engage in dialogue, are friendly and cooperative, know what they want, know when they want it, and would actually like some help with their problem.
Yeah. And this is critical, right? If we're going to start to DM people who we're engaging with on social media and build a connection with them, build rapport with them, understand their needs, and eventually try and sell them something, get them on a phone, at least get them to give us their email or phone number, or actually sell them something, right? Then we need to make sure we're going after the people who are a right fit for this kind of sales approach. And so I'm just going to I'm just going to restate the ones you just said, Ben. The people who are the right fit for this, the people we're calling 5-star prospects, willing to talk to you, they're friendly and cooperative, they have some sense that of what they want, some goals they have in mind, and they kind of want it now. They know their timeline for it, which is now or soon, right? And they know they want some help. They know they can't do it alone. And for if people are not checking those boxes, it's very often they're just not going to respond to you. They're just not going to engage in your sell by chat approach. And so I think don't waste your time on people who don't check those boxes. Now, listen, are some people going to like not respond to you within 5 minutes and might respond to you within like a few days? Sure. But for the most part, we want to make sure that we're reaching out to people who want help, who know they have some goals they can't reach on their own, and are willing to engage with you in their DMs. Anything you would add to that, Ben?
Just like, I think this is important framing because like not everyone you message is going to answer. And the number of times we've heard Jim always be like, I emailed them, but they didn't say anything back. Or I was talking to them, but they weren't really working with me. Like not everyone's a good fit, and that's okay. And that's why it's important to remember, like you're looking for 5-star prospects. Not everybody in your city is a 5-star prospect for your gym.
Yeah, 100%. So just, don't waste your time on the folks who are just not checking those boxes and not engaging. They're just not the right fit right now, but you can reach out to them again in a few weeks, a few months, a few years, and they might be. Yeah. So that's the first step, is make sure you're only spending time on the right kind of lead. Let's talk about some pitfalls. There's a lot of things that people get wrong when it comes to trying to sell people through Instagram DMs. And so what are some of the pitfalls, and how do people overcome them?
Yeah, so there's a number of pitfalls. The first one is like you're coming into this with an agenda. It's not random chit chat. Your goal is to move them, or your goal is to see if they're the right fit, 5-star prospect, to move to the next step of your funnel for like a phone call, strategy session, whatever your offer is. So the joke that we have in the playbook is don't get friend zoned here, but like you're coming into this with an intention. It's also really important that you're not always asking the same questions. So I know how hard it can be when you pull up Instagram, you send some messages, you circle back to it, 6 hours later maybe, and you can't just like copy and paste the conversation every time. Like, tell me more about your goals. Tell me more about your goals. Oh, so like there's got to be a natural flow to it.
Yep.
You've also got to make sure that you're not interrogating people. So obviously you're going to lose tone on an Instagram chat or any text-based communication for that matter. So it's important that you're like taking extra care to acknowledge and to validate and to add value and to ask questions, throw some emojis in there, because otherwise it does come across an interrogation. Like, why is that important to you? Why have you not gained muscle yet? Why are you failing at the things? Like, I know that's not what we mean, but keep in mind,
it's like, dude, like, I don't know you, bro. Like, why are you coming in so hot with these questions? It's too much too soon.
Exactly. You're also going to have to like put your adult pants on and ask for the sale, so to speak. At some point, it's going to be like, is that something you want some help with? So you just got to be ready to make that ask. And if you're not ready to make that ask, it kind of goes back to the point number one. It turns into random chit chat. And then probably the last piece that'll be the hardest for the BFU listeners out there who have been stewards of Michael Keeler's coaching approach. This is the opposite of coaching. You are not asking
not a coaching conversation.
No, not at all. You are asking closed-ended questions. It's, what do you run, one-on-one or small group? To your clients, are you working with Gen Pop or athletes? It's not the typical coaching open-ended questions. You got to make it easy for people to respond quickly. Your goal with this whole thing is you're only trying to get them to the next step. The first step you're trying to get them to is to respond. The next step you're trying to get them to is to actually have some sort of engagement. You're not trying to sell them anything right off the bat, and you're definitely not solving their problems over an Instagram chat.
Yeah, I think those are really great. Let me just reiterate some of the ones I think stand out to me. Like, have a plan and a strategy, ideally a script. This is not like random chit-chatting. Try not to be too redundant and paste the same things over and over again. Try to actually respond to what they're saying when they do respond to you. Try to avoid interrogating. Don't go in asking a ton of questions. Offer some value. Acknowledge what they're saying, right? Make it a human conversation, not just an interrogation. At some point, as Ben said, the whole goal here is to get them to respond and to keep them going and get them to engage. But at some point, you're probably going to ask them for something. Ask them for their email, ask them for their phone number, ask them to book a session with you or a strategy call. And so don't be afraid to escalate when the time is right. And I think the last one is really important, which is this is not a coaching conversation, right? This is like yes or no questions. Make it easy for them to respond so that you can get them to respond again and again and again. And that makes it so much easier. I think that the thing you highlighted here, which I think it's worth saying again and again on this conversation, is the most important goal when you're doing sell by chat is to get them to keep responding to you, just to keep the conversation going. Because if you're talking, you haven't gotten a no yet. Right.
Yes.
If you're talking, you're obviously learning something about you. They're learning something about you. You're learning something about them. They're learning something about you. You're building rapport. You're building trust. You're building what we often call know, like, and trust as a marketer, right? Which gives you at some point permission to then ask for something. But you got to spend some time building value, like in a real life conversation. Yeah. Anything you would add to that before we move on?
No, that's clear.
Okay.
Just
Yeah. So let's talk about what you do. Like, what's the strategy? We won't have time to go into all the details. Like I said, obviously for our Unicorn Study members, we have a whole very detailed scripted playbook for this. And maybe we'll come back and do another podcast with a little bit more detail. But you want to just talk overall about what are the core steps you need to follow in this conversational approach to selling.
Yeah, we'll give a quick overview of the steps, then maybe hit a couple key points on each one. So the 4 steps that you want to keep in mind as you're running sell by chat at your gym are: first is post. You're probably already doing this. You want to have active posts there, otherwise you're not going to have people to engage with. The second is connect, which we talked about a lot in the pitfalls. The third is qualify. You want to make sure they're someone who is actually looking for the type of training that you offer. And then the last step is to convert them, is to take them to the next step that can lead it into a real sales conversation. So why don't we start by talking a little bit about step 1 of posting?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, I think your point you already made, which is like, y'all, none of this happens unless you're posting regularly on social media. And for this purpose of this podcast, we'll just keep talking about Instagram. That's where most of you these days have most of your audience. But if you're not posting, there's nothing for people to engage with. And so, yeah, you want to just give a quick tip about this one?
Yeah, I mean, the key points here are you want to follow the inspire, educate, entertain, which are your 3 types of posts. And then you need to be asking for engagement. So this can be things like comment below, share this post, take a poll. But you can't, I guess the key point here is don't expect people to engage if they haven't been asked to engage. Some people will anyways, but you need to every few posts, put something out there that says, hey, would you prefer this or this? Take a poll on what your goals are, get people to actually engage with you. Otherwise you're not really going to interrupt their scrolling.
I see so often, especially in the fitness space, and I get it, and I'm not trying to shame here, but so often a lot of fitness folks are just lecturing on the internet. They're just out there talking at people through their videos, right? They're not engaging them in a dialogue or asking questions or even asking for any sort of response. So So if that sounds like you, dear listener, it's time to make your content more conversational. Ask them to engage in the chat box. Do a poll once in a while. Actually record yourself having a conversation with a team member or a client and do a collaborative post. But you got to give them something they want to engage with, because that engagement tells you it's time to move on to the next step, which is connect. So let's move to that one.
Yeah. So connect is exactly as you think it means. It's begin the conversation. So it's very likely you're going to have to do a cold open and send them a message. But it could be things like, hey, thanks so much for commenting on the post about whatever, the poll about plyometrics. What plyometrics are you doing? It might just be like, hey, thanks for the follow. And that might be a starting point. But you've got to, again, like I said, put your adult pants on with this, and you've got to actually begin the initiation. It's like when you, I don't know, you're walking down the street and you see a stranger, and instead you look at the floor beside or the ground beside you and just walk past. You just be like, hey, I'm acknowledging that you're here. Thanks for engaging with my poll. Thanks for commenting below. Here's that free resource that I mentioned that I'm sending your way on. I'm just going to keep going with plyometrics, but it's getting some sort of open and then having a conversation starter. Or are you just here for the content, or is that to help you with one of your fitness goals? How'd you hear about me? That type of thing. That just it's a simple closed-ended question to get them to engage with you.
Yeah. Want to know more about plyometrics, or do you do plyometrics? I love that you're using that as the example. You do a lot of plyometrics over there at Lean Strong.
Almost none, but I'm just thinking sports performance today for some reason.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, but listen, it doesn't matter what the content is, right? It's about reaching out and saying, "Hey, I saw you engaged with me. I saw you finish the poll. Thank you. Oh, what did you vote? Or I saw you picked green. Like, why didn't you pick red?" Like, anything at all. I mean, that's technically an open-ended question, but you get the idea. Like, it's something that just is about the fact that they just engaged with you, right? They said hi, and you have to say hi back, and then continue the conversation by asking them ideally a simple, succinct, close-ended question. And that's the connection part. That's just reaching out and making a connection. If they respond, then they're on their way to becoming a 5-star prospect. The next part of this process, after you've connected and engaged, added some value, is start to qualify them and learn more. So what's that stage look like?
Yeah, there's a few steps in here that I think we probably want to go in a little bit more in depth on in another podcast, because this is like really what the chat part of Sell by Chat.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Yeah.
want to start by asking curious questions, getting to know them and building rapport. You then want to make sure you're reflecting back what you're hearing. Make sure you have, like, you can show them that you can actually help them. So by like referencing client success or that type of thing, or even a free resource would add authority in that space. And then really making sure that you understand what they need. But this is having an actual conversation. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
like, not that much different from this standpoint than if someone were to reach out and be like, "Hey, I'm interested in joining your gym. What are your prices?" I'm hoping, dear listener, that you don't just say, "Here's our price sheet. Which one do you want to buy?" Be like, "Oh, I'd
Yeah.
love to share my prices with you. Like, can you tell me more about your fitness goals?" So it's a
Yeah.
similar conversation, with the difference here being you initiated and not them. So you have to be a lot softer with the sales piece.
Yeah. I think that's a great way of thinking about it. Those 4 kind of steps in this part, which is ask great questions, things simple like, do you live in the neighborhood? Right? Do you have a current fitness routine that you like? Then reflect back what they say, show them that you can help, and then keep going until you really understand their need, understand what is the core thing that they want. And I think those are the 4 steps that are really at the heart of this Sell by Chat, which is really getting them to share with you what is the problem they have that you can solve, and then trying to position yourself as the person to solve it, which really leads us into step 4. Because once you've built that rapport and that connection, you start to qualify this is someone who could actually use your help. Then we get to step 4, which is to convert. And this, I think, is probably pretty self-explanatory. But what happens here, Ben?
Well, this is where you're asking if they would like some help reaching the goals that they told you are important to them. And
Yeah.
generally speaking, we usually recommend having some sort of introductory call, like a discovery call before a sales process, so people don't feel like they're getting pushed directly to a sale. And this is really asking, "Hey, Michael, would you like some help reaching your fat loss and plyometric goals?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I'd be open to that."
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Here's what I'm thinking. Why don't we hop on a quick call to talk a little bit more about your needs, brainstorm a couple solutions, and map out a plan to help you achieve that? Does that sound good? And then you get them booked for their call, and that's the beginning of the real sales process, where they've expressed like, "Hey, I'm actually interested in getting some help from you." Because um, often we hear from people, we don't want to you don't want to just feel like you're like spamming people, harassing people. At this point now, they've actually raised their hand. I'm
Yep.
not suggesting you spam or harass them, but now you can move them into an actual conversation, which is going to do more of everything we talked about: build rapport, build trust, see you as an authority, and then be able to move
Yep.
to like obviously the thing here is you're going to be able to help them map out a quick plan, but it's very likely they're going to need some help executing that plan. Oh my goodness, how convenient that you own a gym that does exactly that thing that they're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary, Ben. Right? This is the end of the process where you turn a corner and you make an offer. You make an offer to either give them some more free resources, or get them on a discovery call, or oftentimes this first step doesn't actually cost anything. So we're not trying to get them to whip up their credit card in Instagram DMs. Right? It's just getting them to continue the conversation, maybe in person or on Zoom or by phone. And I think that in of itself is the goal at the end, which is to continue the conversation out of the platform. Yeah. All right. Well, let's pull up there because we can keep going. This is a deep topic. There's a lot of other kind of pro tips we could get into, but how would you summarize what we covered today here, Ben?
Yeah, the summary would be like, keep in mind, not everyone's a 5-star prospect. In fact, most people probably won't even respond to your open. Like, I think we're aiming for like a
Yeah.
2 to 3%. Of every 100 DMs you sent, you're going to get maybe 2 to 3 sales if you're really good at it. That means you might get like maybe 10 conversations, which means that 90% of people might not have even answered anything. So keep in mind the 5-star prospect and don't let it hurt your ego at all if you're not getting the responses that you're hoping for. This is a volume play.
Yeah.
And then keep the
Yeah. I'll
steps
just
in mind.
also want to just jump in because I don't think we said this earlier. I just want to do a little tip of the hat, give credit to Dean Jacks. I think he's the one who you started using that phrase 5-star prospect, and we love it. So thanks, Dean Jackson. Yeah,
Thanks,
keep on
Dean.
going. Sorry.
So keeping that in mind, because you're essentially collecting no's, and the no is like a not even answering. And then it's just making sure you're
Yep.
following those steps in order. First step is post compelling content with calls to action to get people to engage, not necessarily to buy your thing. Make sure you're building a real relationship with people and asking quality questions. Make sure you're qualifying people to see if they even are that 5-star prospect. And then make sure you're making the ask to see if they want to move to that next step and get some help, because they might be an almost 5-star prospect and they fit so many things, but they're not ready for help now. And that's okay. You've still planted the seed. You're still top of mind, and you never know when that person's going to circle back.
Yeah. Fantastic. Great summary, my friend. I
Nice.
think we covered as much as we could with the time we had today. We went a little over 20 minutes. We're doing it. But I think this is sell by chat is a strategy that I think most people listening should try. It's a great way to drive leads on social media without having to give the social media gods any of your money, right? This is like an organic way to drive leads, build rapport with people on the internet, and be social on social media, but in a strategic way that is more likely to drive results. And so I hope you all found this useful. Thanks as always for the great conversation, Ben. If you all want to learn more about the time management tools that we have available to you for free, click the link below in the bio, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a kick-ass day, Ben.
Thanks, you too.